The laughter around the table felt like shattered glass against Armand's skin. He forced a smile, gripping his wine glass as Ishita delivered another punchline at his expense. And then Armand actually thought he could negotiate a raise, she said, rolling her eyes dramatically. My husband, the eternal optimist who can't read a room to save his life. Their friends, Rohan, Priya, and the others, laughed uncomfortably. Armand noticed how Ishita's phone kept lighting up on the table, how she'd glance at it between jokes, how her smile seemed brighter than it had been in months. At least I try, Armand said quietly, attempting to salvage some dignity. Trying isn't the same as succeeding, darling, Ishita replied, her tone dripping with condescension. She checked her phone again, fingers dancing across the screen. The dinner continued, but Armand felt himself shrinking. This wasn't new. Ishita had been increasingly critical over the past 6 months, but doing it publicly felt like a line crossed. When had his wife started viewing him as a punchline rather than a partner? That night, lying in bed with Ishita's back turned to him, Armand stared at the ceiling. The distance between them felt oceanic, yet they shared the same bed. He reached out tentatively, his hand hovering over her shoulder before withdrawing. Ishita? I'm tired, Armand. Not tonight. It was always not tonight lately. The following weeks blurred together. Armand threw himself into his work as a marketing consultant, but the echo of Ishita's mockery followed him. He started noticing other things, too. Her late nights at the office, the way she dressed more carefully before heading to work, how she'd moved her phone's passcode from their anniversary to something he didn't know. One evening, returning home early from a canceled meeting, Armand found Ishita on the balcony, speaking in hushed, intimate tones. I know, Kunal, I can't keep doing this either. Yes, I feel the same way. She hadn't heard him enter. Armand stood frozen in the doorway, his briefcase heavy in his hand, as his world quietly collapsed around him.
Armand couldn't unhear those words. I feel the same way. The tenderness in Ishita's voice when she spoke to Kunal, her colleague from the advertising firm, was something she hadn't directed at him in over a year. He didn't confront her that night. Instead, he lay awake, piecing together fragments he'd ignored. The unexplained late nights, the new lingerie hidden in her drawer, the way she'd started picking fights over trivial matters as if creating distance on purpose. The next morning, Ishita left early for a client breakfast. Armand, operating on autopilot and caffeine, noticed her laptop left open on the kitchen counter. His hand trembled as he moved the mouse, revealing an open chat window. Kunal, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Ishita, I know, I feel terrible, but also I don't want to stop. Kunal, does he suspect anything? Ishita, Armand? No, he's too caught up in his own world to notice. The messages went back 4 months. 4 months of betrayal, of intimate confessions, of plans to meet at hotels Armand had unknowingly paid for with their joint account. His chest tightened, breath coming in shallow gasps. One message made his blood run cold. Making him look pathetic in front of our friends helps me justify this. If everyone sees he's not good enough, maybe I'll feel less guilty. So the public humiliation had been calculated. Strategic cruelty designed to ease her conscience. Armand closed the laptop carefully, his hands surprisingly steady. The initial shock gave way to a strange clarity. He could rage, confront, destroy, or he could choose differently. That afternoon, he called his younger brother Vikram, the only person he trusted completely. They met at a quiet cafe far from Armand's usual haunts. She's cheating, Armand said simply, sliding his phone across the table with screenshots he'd taken. Vikram's face darkened as he scrolled. Brother, I'm so sorry. What do you want to do? I don't know yet, but I won't beg someone to love me. I won't fight for someone who's already gone. You deserve so much better. That night, Armand slept in the guest room, telling Ishita he had a cold. She barely looked up from her phone to acknowledge him.
Armand moved out 3 days later while Ishita was at work. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, just a simple text. I know about Kunal. I'm staying at Vikram's. We'll talk through lawyers. Her response came within minutes. Armand, please let me explain. He blocked her number. The first week at Vikram's apartment was brutal. Armand oscillated between anger and grief, sometimes within the same hour. He'd spent 8 years with Ishita, 3 dating, 5 married, and now it felt like mourning a death. You need to do something for yourself, Vikram insisted one evening, finding Armand staring blankly at the TV. Something that's just yours. Armand thought of his guitar, gathering dust in the storage unit where he'd packed his belongings. In college, music had been his refuge, but Ishita had always dismissed it as unrealistic and juvenile. The next day, he retrieved the guitar. His fingers felt clumsy on the strings at first, muscle memory rusty from years of neglect. But as he played, something inside him began to thaw. A friend from college, Raghav, invited him to an open mic night at a community arts center. Just come watch, man, no pressure. The center was warm and eclectic. Exposed brick walls covered in local artwork, mismatched furniture, the smell of coffee and creativity. Armand sat in the back, watching performers share poetry, music, comedy. The vulnerability on display was beautiful. Between sets, a woman with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile took the small stage. She didn't perform. Instead, she spoke about the center's therapy and wellness programs she volunteered for. Art heals, she said simply, and everyone deserves a space to heal. After the show, Raghav introduced them. Armand, this is Serena Vale. She runs the therapy workshops here. Serena, this is my friend who's rediscovering his love for music. Serena's handshake was firm, her smile genuine. What do you play? Guitar, acoustic mostly. I'm pretty rusty. The best time to start again is always now, she said. We have a songwriting workshop on Thursdays if you're interested. Very low-key, supportive environment. Armand found himself nodding. I think I'd like that.
The songwriting workshop became Armand's sanctuary. Serena facilitated with an intuitive grace, creating space for vulnerability without pressure. She never pried into anyone's story, but somehow she made everyone feel seen. After the third session, as Armand was packing his guitar, Serena approached him. Your songs are getting more honest each week. That last one, about rebuilding foundations, was really moving. Thank you, Armand said, surprised by how much her opinion mattered. I'm going through a difficult transition. I gathered. Her eyes held understanding, not pity. Would you like to grab coffee? No therapist-client dynamic, just 2 people who appreciate good music and decent conversation. They went to a small cafe nearby. Conversation flowed effortlessly, about music, about life's unexpected turns, about the courage it takes to start over. Serena shared her own story, a divorce 3 years ago that had nearly broken her, and how helping others heal had ultimately helped her too. The thing about betrayal, Serena said thoughtfully, is that it makes you question your own judgment. You start wondering if you were blind or stupid, if you somehow deserved it. Yes, Armand breathed, relieved someone understood. Exactly that. But the truth is simpler and harder. Sometimes people just make selfish choices. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their character. Over the following weeks, Armand and Serena's friendship deepened. They met for coffee, attended concerts, took long walks through the city's parks. She never pushed, never demanded, just offered steady, authentic presence. One evening, after a particularly emotional workshop where Armand had performed a song about betrayal and redemption, Serena walked him to his car. That was brave tonight, she said softly. I felt like I might break apart in front of everyone. But you didn't. You let yourself be seen, honestly and completely. That's rare, Armand. Standing in the dim parking lot, Something shifted. Serena's hand brushed his, and neither pulled away. "I'm still healing," Armand said carefully. "I'm still figuring out who I am without her." "I know. I'm not asking for anything except what you're ready to give." He kissed her then, gentle, tentative, nothing like the passionate desperation that had marked his early days with Ishita. This was different, honest, present, real.
The divorce proceedings were cold and clinical. Yashita tried reconciliation at first, showing up at Vikram's apartment with tears and apologies. "I made a terrible mistake. Kunal meant nothing. You're my husband." Armand stood in the doorway, unmoved. "I'm not your safety net, Yashita. I'm not your backup plan when your affair gets complicated. Please, we can go to counseling." "You shamed me publicly to justify betraying me privately. You made me feel worthless so you could feel less guilty. That's not love. That's cruelty." Her tears turned to anger. "Fine. You want to throw away 8 years? Go ahead. You'll never find someone better than me." He almost laughed at the absurdity. "I already have. I found myself again." When Yashita realized he was serious, the proceedings turned bitter. She wanted the apartment, half his savings, alimony. Armand let his lawyer handle it, refusing to engage with her manipulation. Meanwhile, his relationship with Serena blossomed naturally. She met Vikram, who approved immediately. "She looks at you the way you deserve to be looked at, like you matter." 3 months after their first kiss, on a quiet evening at Serena's apartment, they made love for the first time. It was slow and tender, marked by laughter and gentle exploration. Afterward, lying tangled in her sheets, Armand felt something he'd forgotten existed: safety. "I never knew it could be like this," he whispered against her hair, "where I don't have to perform or prove myself, where I can just be." Serena kissed his shoulder. "This is what it's supposed to feel like: partnership, not performance." They made love again, this time with more confidence, learning each other's rhythms and preferences. Serena was patient and communicative, asking what he liked, telling her what pleased her. The intimacy was emotional as much as physical, 2 people choosing each other fully, without reservation or hidden agendas. Later, as dawn light filtered through the curtains, Armand played his guitar softly, while Serena drowsed beside him. He was writing a new song, not about betrayal or loss, but about finding himself again, about the unexpected gift of second chances. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Armand heard through mutual friends that Yashita and Kunal's relationship had imploded under the weight of its guilty foundation. He felt nothing, not satisfaction, not vindication, just a distant sort of closure. He'd moved into his own apartment, filled it with music equipment and artwork from the community center. Serena had a drawer at his place, he had a toothbrush at hers. They were taking it slow, building something on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. The greatest romance of his life, Armand realized, hadn't been the passionate whirlwind with Yashita. It was this, the quiet, steady love he'd cultivated for himself and the partnership he was building with someone who saw his worth clearly. At the community center's anniversary celebration, Armand performed an original song to a packed room. Serena watched from the front row, her smile radiant with pride. When he finished to enthusiastic applause, she stood and kissed him, unashamed and joyful. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too," Armand replied, meaning it completely. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting yourself be seen." As they walked out into the night, hand in hand, Armand felt something he hadn't experienced in years: genuine happiness. Not the desperate, anxious kind that depends on someone else's validation, but the deep, settled kind that comes from knowing your own worth. Yashita had tried to break him. Instead, she'd freed him to become the man he was always meant to be: whole, authentic, and finally, truly loved.